The phone call came at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon. I was standing on the third floor of a construction site, hard hat on, clipboard in hand, trying to coordinate with contractors about structural modifications. My phone buzzed in my pocket and I almost ignored it. But something made me look. Riverside Elementary. My daughter's school. My stomach dropped before I even answered. Miss Maven? This is Nurse Patricia from Riverside Elementary. We need you to come pick up Aloan immediately. What's wrong? Is she hurt? She's been vomiting since lunch. She's dizzy, running a fever, and she's asking for you. We've tried to keep her comfortable, but she really needs to go home. I looked around the construction site. The mandatory safety inspection wasn't finished. My boss, Mr. Hendricks, was somewhere on the second floor expecting my report in an hour. Leaving now would jeopardize my position on this project. But Aloan was sick. Alone. I'm 40 minutes away, I said, my voice shaking. I'm stuck at a work site. Can you keep her comfortable until I get there? We'll do our best, but please hurry. I hung up and immediately dialed the one person I thought I could count on. Mother, I need your help. Kasha Maven's voice came through the phone, crisp and annoyed, like I'd interrupted something important. Lyra, I'm in the middle of something. What is it? Aloan's sick at school. They need someone to pick her up immediately. I'm at the Riverside project and I can't leave for at least 45 minutes. You're only 15 minutes from her school. Could you please? Absolutely not. The words hit me like ice water. What? I am not your babysitter, Lyra. You chose to have a child. You chose single motherhood. These are your responsibilities, not mine. She's your granddaughter. She's 8 years old and she's sick. And whose fault is that? If you'd married properly instead of that disaster with Aloan's father, you'd have help. But you didn't. So handle your own mess. My throat tightened. Mom, please. He's vomiting. He has a fever. She's scared. Then you should have planned better. I have a luncheon at the country club in 30 minutes. I'm not canceling my plans because you can't manage your life. This is an emergency. No, this is you being dramatic as usual. Aloan will survive an hour in the nurse's office. I have to go. She hung up. I stood there on that construction site, phone pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. Traffic was a nightmare. I'd apologized to Mr. Hendricks, grabbed my bag and run to my car. Every red light felt like torture. Every slow driver made me want to scream. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Tears streamed down my face, blurring the road ahead. Aloan was waiting for me. My baby girl, sick and alone, probably wondering why it was taking me so long. Probably wondering why Grandma hadn't come. I called my mother 3 more times during that drive. She didn't answer. When I finally pulled into Riverside Elementary's parking lot, I was 47 minutes late. 47 minutes my daughter had spent in that nurse's office, feeling awful and abandoned. I ran through the hallways, not caring about the sign-in sheet or visitor protocols. The nurse's office door was partially open. I pushed through. Aloan was lying on a cot, pale and sweating, a small trash can beside her. When she saw me, she started crying. Mommy, I feel so bad. Where were you? I scooped her into my arms, holding her burning body against mine. I'm here now, baby. I'm so sorry. I came as fast as I could. The emergency room doctor confirmed what I'd feared. Your daughter has a severe infection. Her fever is dangerously high, 104 degrees. If you'd waited much longer to bring her in, we'd be looking at hospitalization. 104 degrees. My 8-year-old daughter had been sitting in a school nurse's office with a 104-degree fever for almost 2 hours. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to find my mother and make her understand what she'd done. But instead I held Aloan's hand while they started and administered antibiotics. She whimpered, scared of the needle, and I whispered reassurances I didn't feel. When we finally got home around 8 that evening, I tucked Aloan into bed with medicine and water. She fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from pain and fear. I sat on my living room couch and pulled out my phone. My mother had posted on social media 3 hours earlier. The photo showed her at an elegant table with 2 friends, champagne glasses raised. Everyone was laughing. The caption read, "Living my best life. No unnecessary stress today." Posted at 2:47 p.m. Exactly when I'd been begging her to help my sick child. Something inside me cracked. I didn't sleep that night. I kept checking on Aloan every hour, making sure her fever was going down, making sure she was breathing normally. Every time I returned to my room, I stared at that social media post. No unnecessary stress today. Was that what my daughter was to her? Unnecessary stress? I thought about all the times my mother had prioritized her image over actual care. The times she'd canceled plans with Aloan to attend parties. The times she'd criticized my parenting while offering no actual support. But this was different. This wasn't about hurt feelings or disappointment. This was about my daughter's health. Her safety. Her life. At 3 a.m, I made a decision. When the sun rose, I was going to confront my mother face to face. No phone call she could hang up. No text she could ignore. I was going to make her understand what she'd done. Morning came. Aloan's fever had broken slightly, down to 101. Still sick but stable. I called my neighbor Mrs. Chin, who'd helped me before in emergencies. She agreed to watch Aloan for a few hours. Then I drove to my mother's house. Kasha Maven lived in a pristine white house in the expensive part of town. Everything about her home was perfect. Manicured lawn. Expensive car in the driveway. Not a single thing out of place. It looked like a magazine spread, which was exactly how she wanted it. I rang the doorbell 3 times before she answered, wearing a silk robe and an annoyed expression. Lyra? What are you doing here at this hour? We need to talk. I'm busy. You're going to listen to me. Now. Something in my voice made her step back. I walked past her into the living room I'd grown up in but never felt welcome in. Yesterday you refused to help when Aloan was sick, I started. You told me you weren't my babysitter and hung up on me. And I stand by that. She had a 104-degree fever. My voice cracked. She could have had a seizure. She could have gotten seriously hurt. And you were at a luncheon posting selfies about having no stress. Don't you dare guilt me for living my life. I raised you. I did my job. Your daughter is your responsibility. She's a child. She needed help. Then maybe you should have made better choices, Kasha snapped. If you'd married someone stable instead of that artist loser, you'd have support. But you didn't. You got pregnant, got abandoned, and now you expect me to pick up the pieces. That's when we heard it. A small gasp from the hallway. We both turned. Aloan was standing there. I told Mrs. Chin I'd be back in an hour. But Aloan had woken up feeling worse. Mrs. Chin had called me, and when I didn't answer, I'd left my phone in the car. She'd driven Aloan to my mother's house because she knew that's where I'd gone. Aloan had heard everything. Every cruel word. Every dismissal. Grandma thinks I'm a mistake? Her voice was so small, so broken. No baby, that's not. I started forward, but Aloan stepped back. Tears streamed down her flushed face. Grandma doesn't want to help me because I'm bad. Because Daddy left. Aloan, don't be dramatic, Kasha began. Get out. I screamed at my mother. We're leaving. Don't call us. Don't text. Don't come near my daughter ever again. I scooped Aloan into my arms and carried her out of that perfect house. She sobbed into my shoulder the entire drive home. That night, I held my daughter while she cried herself to sleep. And I realized something terrible. This wasn't just about one incident. This was generational cruelty. My mother had treated me the same way my entire childhood. I'd survived it. But I wouldn't let Aloan suffer the same fate. My siblings called within 24 hours. First Verik, my older brother. Mom says you went crazy and threatened her. What's going on? Then Maylise, my younger sister. You need to apologize. Mom's really upset. I explain what happened. The sick child. The refusal to help. The cruel words Aloan overheard. Their responses were identical. You expect too much. Mom doesn't owe you babysitting. You should be grateful she's in your life at all. Grateful. I repeated to Maylise. For what? For posting selfies while my daughter had a 104-degree fever. You're being overdramatic. That's always been your problem, Lyra. Everything's a crisis with you. I hung up on both of them. They called back. I didn't answer. They texted. I blocked them. If they couldn't see what was wrong with abandoning a sick 8-year-old, they were part of the problem. A week later, I was cleaning out my closet when I found an old box labeled Grandma's Things. Inside were letters and journals from my late grandmother, Kasha's mother. I'd packed them away years ago after Grandma died, meaning to read them eventually. I opened the first journal entry and started reading. What I found made my blood run cold. The journals revealed everything. My grandmother had documented decades of Kash's behavior. Cold dismissals. Narcissistic rages. Manipulation. My grandmother wrote about trying to get Kasha help, trying to make her see how she hurt people. One entry from 28 years ago read, Kasha told me today she doesn't care about being a good mother. He cares about being envied. I fear for Lyra. She's too sensitive for Kasha's world. Too sensitive. That's what my mother always called me. Another entry. Kasha sees her children as reflections, not people. If they don't make her look good, she discards them emotionally. I read until dawn, crying as I recognized patterns I'd lived through but never named. The next day I made an appointment with a child psychologist. Not for me, for Aloan. Dr. Sarachan was calm and kind. She met with Aloan alone first, then called me in. Your daughter is developing abandonment anxiety, she said gently. She's internalizing the message that her needs are burdens. That asking for help makes her bad. Because of my mother. Because of an authority figure who should protect her but instead rejects her. If you don't set firm boundaries, Aloan will carry this trauma into adulthood. What do I do? Cut contact. Completely. Your daughter's mental health depends on it. Cutting contact with my mother was easier than I expected. I blocked her number. Blocked her on social media. Told Aloan's school that under no circumstances should my mother be allowed to pick her up or have information about her. Kasha didn't handle it well. She showed up at my apartment unannounced 2 days later, pounding on the door. Open this door right now, Lyra. How dare you block me? I didn't open it. I called building security and had her removed. She sent letters. I returned them unopened. She tried calling from different numbers. I blocked each one. Finally, she sent an email. I made the mistake of reading it. You are ungrateful trash. After everything I did for you, feeding you, clothing you, giving you a home, this is how you repay me? By poisoning my granddaughter against me? You're mentally unstable and I'm documenting everything for when I need to take legal action to protect Aloan from you. I forwarded the email to Dr. Chin. She read it and said, this is classic narcissistic manipulation. She's threatening you to regain control. Don't respond. Keep records of everything. I followed her advice. But Kasha wasn't done. The smear campaign started on social media. Kasha posted vague messages about ungrateful children and being shut out of a grandchild's life for no reason. She painted herself as a victim, a devoted grandmother being cruelly excluded. Then she got specific. Some people lie about family to justify their own failures, she posted. When you can't manage your life, you blame others. Mental instability runs in families. I'm praying for my granddaughter. My phone exploded with messages. Distant relatives asking what was wrong. Family friends expressing concern. Everyone wanted to know my side, but Kasha had already poisoned them against me. She told her book club I was having a breakdown. She told her church group I was being influenced by a controlling therapist. She told anyone who would listen that I was manipulative, unstable, and hurting my own daughter. Varric called. You need to fix this. Mom's reputation is being damaged because of your drama. Her reputation? I laughed bitterly. She called my daughter a burden and you're worried about her reputation? You're twisting everything. Mom would never. She did. And if you can't believe me, that says more about you than it does about me. I hung up and cried for an hour. But then something unexpected happened. My Aunt Seraphine called. I hadn't spoken to her in years. She and my mother had been estranged for over a decade, and my mother had forbidden us from contacting her. She's toxic and jealous, Kasha had always said. Lyra, this is your Aunt Seraphine. I know this call is unexpected, but I saw what your mother's posting online. I need to talk to you. We met at a quiet coffee shop. Seraphine looked older than I remembered, but her eyes were kind. I've been watching from a distance, she said. I've seen how Kasha treats you. She treated me the same way for 40 years before I finally cut her off. What happened? She destroyed my marriage. My friendships. My reputation. Kasha can't stand anyone she can't control. When my husband got a promotion she thought should have been hers, she spread rumors that he was having an affair. It destroyed us. My hands shook around my coffee cup. She's doing the same thing to me now. Telling everyone I'm unstable. I know. That's why I'm here. Seraphine pulled out a folder. These are documents about your grandmother's will. Things Kasia doesn't know I have. What kind of documents? Proof that she lied. Manipulated. Stole. Your grandmother left property and money to both of us. Kasia convinced Grandma to change the will 2 weeks before she died, claiming we were both incompetent. She got everything. I stared at the papers. That's fraud. Yes. And I finally have enough evidence to prove it. 2 weeks after my conversation with Seraphine, Eloane collapsed at school. She was backstage during rehearsal for the school play when a teacher found her unconscious. The ambulance arrived within minutes. I got the call while at work. This time I didn't hesitate. I ran. At the hospital, doctors ran tests. The infection from weeks earlier hadn't fully cleared. It had spread, worsened by stress and anxiety. Her little body had been fighting too hard for too long. She needs rest. Real rest. No stress, no anxiety. Her immune system is compromised, the doctor explained. I sat beside her hospital bed, holding her small hand, and I broke down. This was my fault. I'd trusted my mother too long. I'd exposed Eloane to toxicity I should have recognized sooner. I'm sorry, baby, I whispered. I'm so sorry. That's when I heard heels clicking down the hospital corridor. Kasia Maven walked into my daughter's hospital room like she owned it. I heard Eloane was here, Kasia announced. I came to help. Get out, I said, my voice deadly calm. Excuse me? That's my granddaughter. You called her a burden. You refused to help when she was sick. You've spent the last month telling everyone I'm crazy. You don't get to play concerned grandmother now. I'm her family. You're the reason she's here. I stood up, fury pouring through me. The doctor said stress compromised her immune system. You stressed her out. You hurt her. You made her sick. Don't you dare blame me for your failures as a mother. Out. I screamed. Get out before I call security. A nurse appeared in the doorway, assessing the situation. Ma'am, you need to leave. You're disturbing patients. Kasia's face twisted with rage. You'll regret this, Lyra. I promise you that. She stormed out, heels clicking violently against linoleum. I collapsed back into the chair, shaking. Eloane stirred, mumbling in her feverish sleep. I held her hand until my own stopped trembling. I didn't know it then, but that confrontation had been overheard by more than just the nurse. A social worker visited me the next day. Ms. Maven, I'm Linda Torres from Child Protective Services. A mandatory reporter contacted us regarding comments made by a family member in your daughter's hospital room. My stomach dropped. Are you investigating me? Not you. We're investigating potential interference and emotional abuse by your mother, Kasia Maven. The nurse who heard the confrontation was concerned about the grandmother's behavior and comments. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're investigating my mother? A report was filed. We have to follow up. Can you tell me about your relationship with her? I told Linda everything. The refusal to help. The cruel words. The smear campaign. The stress Eloane had been under. I showed her the emails, the social media posts, Dr. Chen's notes about Eloane's abandonment anxiety. Linda took notes carefully. This is helpful. We'll be contacting your mother directly. I need you to understand, this isn't about punishing her. It's about ensuring Eloane's well-being. Thank you, I whispered. 3 days later, Kasia received an official notice from CPS requesting an interview. She lost her mind. Kasia stormed into the CPS office demanding answers. I wasn't there, but I heard about it from Linda Torres, who called me afterward. Your mother caused quite a scene, Linda said, sounding exhausted. She demanded to know who filed the report. When we wouldn't tell her, she started yelling about harassment and false accusations. She threatened legal action against our office. That sounds like her. Then she made some concerning statements. About your mental health. About your fitness as a parent. She seemed to think if she discredited you, we'd drop the investigation. Did it work? No. It made things worse. Her behavior raised more red flags. Someone had recorded Kasia's meltdown on their phone. The video went viral within days. Ice Queen Grandma has meltdown at CPS office, read the headlines. The video showed Kasia screaming at government employees, demanding they investigate me instead of her, claiming she was being persecuted for being a good grandmother. The internet was not kind. Comments poured in from people who recognized narcissistic behavior, who dealt with toxic family members, who understood exactly what was happening. My mother, who'd built her entire life on appearances, was now a viral meme for terrible behavior. Her carefully constructed image shattered overnight. With my mother's reputation in ruins, I focused on rebuilding our life. I talked to my boss about flexible hours. He agreed, understanding the situation. I hired a trusted babysitter, a college student named Maya who Aloan loved. I reached out to other single mothers in my area and started a support network. We met once a week, sharing resources and emergency contacts. If one of us got stuck at work, another could help. If someone's child got sick, we had backup plans. It was what family should have been. What my mother never was. Dr. Chin worked with Aloan twice a week. Slowly, my daughter started smiling again. Started feeling safe again. Started believing that asking for help didn't make her a burden. I began reading books about generational trauma. About breaking cycles. About healing. For the first time in my life, I understood that my mother's cruelty wasn't about me. It was about her. And I could choose differently for my daughter. Then Verrick and Maylee started calling again. You need to fix this, Verrick said when I finally answered his 10th call. Mom's partnerships are falling apart. Her reputation is destroyed. People are canceling her from social groups. And it's your fault. If you hadn't made that scene at the hospital. I didn't make a scene. I protected my daughter from abuse. Abuse? Are you serious? Mom was just trying to help. Mom abandoned her sick granddaughter and called her a burden. That's not help. That's cruelty. Maylee's called next. Her approach was different. Softer, more manipulative. Lyra, I understand you're hurt. But think about the family. Mom's businesses are struggling. Her income affects all of us. If she loses everything, what happens to what? Your allowance. Silence. That's what this is about, isn't it? You don't care that she hurt Aloan. You care that her money's at risk. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Maylee. I learned that when my 8-year-old waited 2 hours with a 104-degree fever because Grandma was too busy taking selfies. I hung up on both of them. This time I didn't feel guilty about it. Seraphine called me 2 weeks later with news I wasn't expecting. I found more documents. Letters your grandmother wrote before she died. Lyra, Kasia didn't just change the will. She isolated our mother, convinced her we were trying to steal from her, and got power of attorney under false pretenses. That's elder abuse. Yes. And I have proof. Bank statements showing Kasia transferred funds to herself. Emails to the estate lawyer pressuring him to change beneficiaries. Even a recording where Kasia admits to convincing Grandma that we were ungrateful and greedy. Why would she do this? Because your grandmother loved you. Saw your potential. Left you property, specifically. The house you grew up in, the one Kasia sold and kept the money from. Kasia couldn't stand that Grandma saw value in you that she never saw. Something clicked into place. All those years of criticism. Of being called dramatic, sensitive, a disappointment. My mother hadn't just been cruel. She'd been jealous. What do? I asked. We file a lawsuit. Fraud, coercion, financial exploitation. We expose everything. I thought about Aloan. About breaking cycles. About teaching my daughter that standing up for yourself wasn't cruelty, it was survival. Let's do it. The lawsuit hit Kasia like a bomb. We filed with extensive documentation. Bank records. Letters. Witness statements from Grandma's neighbors who'd watched Kasia isolate her. Even testimony from the estate lawyer who admitted he'd felt pressured to change the will. The local news picked up the story. Socialite accused of elder abuse and fraud, read the headlines. Kasia's world collapsed further. The few friends she had left distanced themselves. Her social groups quietly removed her. Businesses stopped partnering with her. He tried fighting back. Hired expensive lawyers. Issued statements about being victimized by greedy relatives. But the evidence was overwhelming. During discovery, we learned Kasia had stolen over $400,000 through fraudulent will changes and property sales. Money that should have been split between Seraphine, myself, and 2 other family members. The house I'd grown up in, the one Grandma specifically left to me, had been sold by Kasia for $300,000. Money she'd kept entirely for herself, claiming it was compensation for caring for Grandma in her final years. Except Grandma had been in a nursing home those final years. Kasia had visited twice. My lawyer explained that we had an airtight case. Kasia would lose. But before trial something unexpected happened. Kasia tried one final manipulation. She posted a long emotional message on social media claiming I was brainwashing Eloan to get revenge. That she was a loving grandmother being victimized by a daughter who wanted her money. The post got some sympathy at first. Then Dr. Chin did something I didn't expect. She'd been working with Eloan for months. With my permission, she recorded a therapy session where Eloan talked about her feelings. How Grandma's rejection had hurt her, how she felt like a burden, how she was scared to ask for help because she might be abandoned again. Dr. Chin posted the audio with identifying details removed, as an educational example of how adult behavior impacts children. But people recognized the story, connected it to my case. The recording spread across social media, accompanied by expert commentary on emotional abuse and narcissistic grandparents. Grandma doesn't love me. She loves attention, Eloan's small voice said on the recording. Those words cut through every lie Kasia had told. The sympathy for my mother evaporated completely. The courtroom was packed with people I'd never met. Journalists. Advocates for elder abuse victims. People who'd followed the viral story and wanted to see justice. My lawyer presented our case methodically. Every document, every witness, every piece of evidence that proved Kasia had manipulated, stolen, and lied. Kasia's lawyer tried arguing that she'd acted in good faith. That she'd believed the will changes were what Grandma wanted. That she'd invested the money she took in managing family affairs. Then Seraphine's lawyer played the recording. Kasia's voice from 3 years earlier talking to a friend. Mother left everything to Lyra and Seraphine. Can you believe that? After everything I did? I'll fix it before she dies. They don't deserve anything. The courtroom went silent. The judge asked Kasia directly, "Did you make this statement?" My mother, who'd spent her entire life maintaining a perfect image, looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. That was taken out of context. Yes or no? Did you make this statement? Yes, but... That's all I need to hear. The judge ruled in our favor on every count. Fraud, coercion, financial exploitation. Kasia was ordered to return all stolen funds plus interest, pay legal fees, and face potential criminal charges for elder abuse. She lost everything. Within a month, Kasia's empire was gone. Her house was put up for sale to cover the judgment. Her car repossessed. Her bank accounts frozen. Every asset she'd built on stolen money taken away. Verik and Melis fled. They'd been living off her money, and with that gone, they wanted nothing to do with the scandal. They moved to different states, changed their social media profiles, tried to distance themselves from the family name. I didn't care. They'd chosen sides long ago. Meanwhile, Seraphine and I split the recovered funds. I put half into savings for Eloan's future and used the rest to create something meaningful. The Eloan Fund. A program that helped single parents in emergencies. If a parent got stuck at work and their child was sick, we had volunteers who could help. If someone needed emergency childcare, we had resources. If a child was waiting alone at school, we made sure they weren't alone for long. No child should ever feel like a burden for needing help. At the launch event, I spoke about why I'd created the fund. About that day Eloan waited 2 hours with a fever. About the mother who refused to help. About breaking cycles of cruelty. People cried. People donated. People shared their own stories. And I realized something. My mother's cruelty had inadvertently created something beautiful. Proof that pain could transform into purpose. Kasia tried one last time to reach me. She appeared at my apartment building 6 months after the trial, looking nothing like the polished socialite I'd grown up fearing. Her hair was graying at the roots. Her clothes were plain. Her expensive jewelry gone. The building security called me. "There's a woman named Kasia Maven asking to see you." Should I let her up? No. Tell her to leave. She says it's important. She says she needs to apologize. I almost said no again. Almost let security remove her. But something made me go down to the lobby instead. Kasia stood by the doors, small and diminished. When she saw me, she started crying. "Lyra, please. I'm sorry. I've lost everything. My home, my friends, my reputation. I have nothing left. I just want my family back." You're not sorry, I said quietly. You're lonely. There's a difference. I am sorry. I didn't realize how badly I'd hurt you. How badly I'd hurt Aloan. You knew exactly what you were doing. You chose appearances over people. Status over love. Control over connection. You made those choices every single day. Please. I'm your mother. Doesn't that mean anything? It means I learned from you. I learned what kind of mother I don't want to be. I turned to walk away. Lyra, wait. I looked back one last time. I won't let my daughter grow up fearing the same woman I feared. The cycle ends with me. The healing begins with me. I walked back to the elevator where Aloan was waiting with Maya. My daughter took my hand. Was that Grandma? Yes. Is she coming back? No, baby. She's not. Aloan nodded then smiled. Can we go home now? Yes. Let's go home. Life wasn't perfect after that, but it was ours. Aloan thrived. Her anxiety faded. She made friends, joined the school choir, laughed more freely than I'd seen in years. She knew she was loved. She knew she was safe. I got promoted at work. My boss recognized my dedication and skill, gave me projects I'd been hoping for. I built a career on my own terms. The Aloan Fund grew. We helped dozens of families in that first year. Prevented children from waiting alone at schools. Gave parents the support system they deserved. Seraphine became the family I'd always needed. We had dinner every week. She told me stories about my grandmother, the woman I'd barely known but who'd seen value in me that my mother never had. And Kasia? I heard she'd moved to another state, living in a small apartment, working a retail job. Her reputation never recovered. The friends she'd cultivated abandoned her. The life she'd built on appearances crumbled completely. Part of me felt sad for her. But mostly I felt free. I'd spent 28 years trying to earn love from someone incapable of giving it. 28 years believing my worth was tied to her approval. I'd broken that belief. Not with anger or revenge but with boundaries and truth. One evening I tucked Aloan into bed and she asked me a question. Mommy, what happened to Grandma? She made choices that hurt people. And now she has to live with the consequences of those choices. Does she still think I'm a burden? What Grandma thinks doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you know you're loved. That you're important. That asking for help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Aloan smiled and hugged me tight. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. Always. After she fell asleep, I stood in her doorway watching her breathe peacefully. No more anxiety. No more fear. No more wondering if she was too much trouble. The generational cycle that had nearly destroyed me ended with my decision to protect her. To choose differently. To love her the way I should have been loved. My mother had tried to break me. Instead, she'd shown me exactly who I didn't want to become. And in doing so, she'd freed me to be the mother my daughter deserved. The one who showed up. The one who protected. The one who loved without conditions. I closed Aloan's door softly and went to my own room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new moments to prove that breaking cycles was possible. But tonight I just felt grateful. Grateful that I'd found the strength to say no. Grateful that I'd chosen my daughter over family obligation. Grateful that I'd learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes loving yourself and your child means walking away from the people who were supposed to love you first. And that's not cruelty. That's survival. That's healing. That's hope.